would hope that if I lived in Alabama in the 1950s, I would have marched with Martin Luther King Jr.
This is the moral issue of our time.
If we don't get a handle on this, we will destroy what we are handing down to future generations.
Children are sick, adults are sick, animals are sick, streams have been polluted, they're messing with nature.
We're talking about the same drinking water everybody is upon. This should not be a political issue.
It's the act of many getting together that can stop the actions of a few.
If we don't do it, who will?
Horizontal drilling, hydraulic fracturing,
Shale gas extraction,
national security,
truck traffic,
Clean burning, compressor stations, jobs,
energy independence,
condensate tanks, bridge fuel,
pipelines,
Toxic chemicals.
fracking.
Hydraulic fracturing begins when a borehole is drilled vertically about 1 mile into the shale, then turns to continue horizontally for up to 2 miles. Steel casing and cement line the entire borehole, and along the horizontal portion, small explosions perforate the casing. Next, between 5 and 8 million gallons of water, silica sand, and an array of chemicals from benign to carcinogenic, such as ethylene glycol, a friction reducer, and glutaraldehyde, a powerful biocide, are pumped at extremely high pressure into the well, fracturing the shale, releasing natural gas.
You have a lot of gas that you want to bring to the surface. To get to it, you have to drill through our drinking water aquifers, then pump fresh water and some of the most toxic chemicals we know about to break open the shale so the bubbles of gas are liberated. More than just natural gas is liberated. A lot of that water also comes back up highly toxic, radioactive, and full of heavy metals, some of which, like arsenic, can cause lung cancer, bladder cancer, skin cancer at vanishingly small concentrations.
I'm a licensed professional engineer. And as such, I have an ethical obligation when I engage, as I have been since the late 1970s, in engineering processes, products, and acts. When I engage in those, I have an ethical obligation to inform the public of risk.
Young wells, brand new wells, fail at the rate of 1 in 20. Remember that number, 5%. And as wells age, the failure rate goes up.
The people that I worked with in the industry for 25 years were the engineers and scientists in the research labs. And I think they would agree with me that any form of technology has its limits. When you're working underground, okay, you can't see what's going on. You have very, very little ability to actually detect whether what you think was going to happen, happened.
People didn't know what it was. They didn't know what was going on. They snuck in.
Weld County has the highest active density oil and gas well count in the entire United States.
Around natural gas, the facts are pretty clear. There's no denying the promise and the tremendous power that affordable natural gas creates. It's clean, it's inexpensive, creates jobs here. I think it makes the world a safer place.
We have 19,000 plus active oil and gas wells right here. This is where natural gas is actually compressed into a liquid form and then pipelined to various holding tanks. There are 181 compressors in Colorado. This is one of them. We can taste the air, we can smell the air from this compressor station, and immediately I got a headache.
People see these types of tanks in all of the agricultural fields in the area, and they think it's actually water for agriculture. They don't actually realize it is a condensate tank filled with gas and
Crude oil.
crude. Yeah.
Yep.
We are the moms of Erie Rising here in Erie, Colorado, and we have serious concerns about the gas drilling that's occurring right in our residential area and next to our schools.
The invasion of this heavy industry has now moved from outside of cities to inside of cities. We have well pads that are closer to homes than the 350-foot setback, next to areas like playgrounds, schools, kindergartens, hospitals, This right here is approximately 160 feet from the residential development. The conical shape is a volatile organic combustor stack. Volatile organic compound emissions are things such as benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, cyclopentanes, and the list goes on and on. There are several hundred different types of chemicals that come from combustor stacks and condensate tanks into our homes, into our bedrooms.
Do you have running back dreams or quarterback comeback? Erie Rising was formed because a group of concerned moms had to figure out why so many strange and bizarre health things were happening to us.
This is the cul-de-sac that our children play in. It's well within 100 feet of the BTEX burner. We are certainly concerned. You can hear the burner incinerating at all times, that all of these hydrocarbons are releasing all over the neighborhood.
Each condensate tank releases roughly 2 tons of hydrocarbon vapors per year.
With our kids, we've noticed an abundance of allergies, asthma, bloody noses, gastrointestinal issues, skin rashes, a lot of things that may seem typical, but when you kind of put it all together, there's an uncanny number of children and families experiencing these health effects.
We lived within 150 feet of open evaporation pits for 6 years. I was pregnant with 2 of my babies. One of my children has severe autoimmune disorders. That same child also developed asthma overnight within 2 weeks of this particular well being placed online.
My name's Rod Brewski. I have 3 consolidated pads within a mile radius of my family's home, and several condensate burners going off all the time. University of Colorado Health Science did a study, and some of the conclusions they came up with after their 2-year study is if you're within a half mile of a completed well, the risk for cancers, asthma, other adverse health effects are greatly increased. When the well came online across the road from us, my son had chronic nosebleeds. I just sometimes lay awake at night and wonder, what are we giving our kids, 20 years from now? Is it really worth it?
We have the oil and gas companies agreeing to add vapor recovery units because they know that they're not capturing all of the emissions. So it's very hard to be here a year and a half later and have them agree and admit to adding these safety precautions.
Have they done it?
To new wells. When we have lived here with our kids during the most when we've lived here with our kids during the most dangerous time. And it took our fighting and our own self-education to get them to admit that it would be best to have some more safety precautions on these.
2.5 years ago, there were 3 activists, and now we have over 5 or 6 dozen grassroots organizations that we've helped build. And so what you're seeing in Colorado is this enormous rising. It is a groundswell. It's a rising of activism against the unregulated oil and gas industry, and it's growing exponentially.
What it showed me was that truly a small group of committed citizens can make massive change.
Jason's grandparents built this ranch, and we worked hard to keep it in the family. So we do our best to protect what's ours. With all the stories out there, some people were surprised that we allowed fracking on our land. But we talked with experts and learned the facts about drilling for oil and natural gas. And guess what? It's safe.
The industry distorts, disingenuously advertises that which I understand so that it is misunderstood by the general population.
The fundamental problem I have with the oil companies' story here is that it's only 1% of these chemicals. The fracking fluids are only 1%. In the water business, contaminants are measured in parts per billion, and the tests are typically 10 to 50 parts per billion. Only 1% is 10 million parts per billion. This is 1 million times more concentrated than is allowed in drinking water. Another way to say that is only 1 gallon of an only 1% solution can contaminate 1 million gallons of drinking water. And they use millions of gallons in a single frac.
Interviews with her have appeared in many major newspapers, on NPR, The Today Show, and Good Morning America. She's currently a scholar in residence in Ithaca at Ithaca College, and we're very fortunate to have her today. Please welcome Sandra Steinbecker.
On January 1st, 1900, the very first day of the 20th century, the U.S. Supreme Court made a decision that changed the course of my life and every person's life in my hometown. It decided to permit all the slaughterhouses in Chicago to dump their waste into the headwater tributaries of the Illinois River. The river turned into an open sewer, and soon not just the surface water, but also the groundwater was contaminated with solvents, including my hometown drinking water wells. So by the age of 20, I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. And that is a disease that is almost always associated with exposure to chemical contaminants. I was just one data point in a cluster of cancers in Tazewell County, Illinois. I grew up drinking dry cleaning fluid. I don't want my kids to do that. So I decided to choose a different place, and I planted my flag here. This is my adoptive homeland.
Here's a spider web.
I don't want to leave. I have a spiritual connection to this place that I chose for my children. 40% of the land around me is now leased to the gas industry. To me, as a mom who lives in this place, who realizes that my children's bodies are made up of the air and the water and the food drawn from this environment, the love I have for my child is also the love I have for this place.
It's about creating together an unfractured future for our children.
I don't want my kids or anybody's kids to be data points in a cancer cluster the way I was. I want that to end with me. It turns out our regulatory system is not based on the kind of precautionary thinking that I as a mother would do, but rather we promulgate sort of maximum contaminant limits. So the testing and the regulation we do just does not take into account the special vulnerabilities that children have.
See if you can breathe through your mouth like this. Can you make a noise like that?
The fracking process releases benzene, and I'm concerned that the benzene will give either the babies or their mothers leukemia.
And give me the big eye.
The cells are dividing more rapidly then and are more susceptible to mutations in the DNA.
You're very healthy, Lexi.
The time lag is 5 to 15 years, so we may yet see a very profound epidemic of a terrible disease unless great care is taken with the disposal of the benzene.
There are pregnant women living all over this landscape. There will be pregnant women living next to drill rigs. There will be chemicals coming out of those drill rigs that are reproductive toxicants that have the ability to sabotage pregnancy.
All of us in the public health community are demanding that we stop this process now until and unless we have a comprehensive health impact assessment with full public participation.
To pretend that we can somehow put drilling and fracking operations in places that people live and have us not be exposed is a little like the claim that putting a non-smoking section in an airplane is sufficiently protective.
We are going to open this process up because secrecy cannot protect public health.
There will always be well failures. And when you're talking about unconventional development of gas from shales, by necessity, geological necessity and economic necessity, you must be talking about a very large number of wells.
We know 6% of wells leak immediately upon being constructed, and this is independent of mistakes or errors or things like that. They just do. And the best data we have available to us right now suggests that up to 30% of them leak within a decade and a half. Well, what percent leaks after 1 century? What percent after 2 centuries?
The principle ought to be, if the chemical is not allowed to be in groundwater, it shouldn't be legal to inject it into the ground.
I don't understand why this industry in particular gets the exemptions that no other industry seems to have earned or required or demanded. If all other industries that use chemicals, we know there are many, produce chemicals, use chemicals in the environment, are required to abide by federal standards for air and water protection, why is this industry exempt?
In 2005, Dick Cheney and his former employer, Halliburton, got the fracking process exempted from EPA review. They did this by putting a loophole into the 2005 Energy Policy Act.
This is the most dangerous moment in American history for democracy. We are either going to be a nation that's of and by and for the people, or of and by and for large corporations and the wealthy.
During the Bush administration, secret meetings produced exemptions from the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and the Safe Drinking Water Act. The bottom line is the industry can simply ignore these regulations with impunity.
When I look at the chemicals that are used, and when I see the other chemicals and minerals that come out of a gas well, I ask myself, is that good for the health of my children and my grandchildren? The answer is no, it can't be good. It can never be good. Is it harmful? Potentially, absolutely.
My name is David Kagan. Early in 2009, I started to notice big trucks starting to roll up Route 44, which is our state road right in front of our house, goes up the valley. It's a rural 2-lane road. Tourists use it a lot, and no one had any idea what it was. We finally found out that's a gas industry starting here in this area, and of course everybody's, what? Totally shocked, what, here? Industry? The wells around here are in the mountains west of us. They're in the mountains up there north of us, and they are in the mountaintops here east of us. I've lived in Pine Creek for about 40 years. I've biked and hiked hundreds of miles throughout this valley and the mountains surrounding it. I like to listen to the creek gurgling along, but since the truck traffic, that's really been ruined to a great degree for me, and I'm almost tempted to start listening just to music and block out both the truck traffic and, unfortunately, the birds. Anadarko E&P Company surface water withdrawal. Peak day withdrawal rate 1.5 million gallons per day. Wants to buy a gas station store and then have trucks come up there and dump water and then pump that water up to their main water conduit on the mountaintops. The problem with this whole operation is that up to 8 triaxle trucks can be there at the same time. There's an intersection of at least 9 roads there, counting private driveways. There's a trailer park in the back of about 15 trailers with families and young children. It would be a disaster. That's the trucks rolling up and down our 2-lane narrow Route 44, which has become an industrial highway, in the words of our Representative Garth Everett. He told me When I asked him, is this fair to say this is an industrial highway now? He said, yes, I guess it is. Construction vehicles do not follow. What choice do we have? My count of the truck traffic totals about 50 to 60 every hour. And that includes triaxles, 18-wheelers, and pickup trucks.
This is the way it is. I've lived for this for a year and a half now.
This is just the beginning. They currently have less than 50 working wells in this area, and they're supposed to have thousands coming. I wanted to live here, but I wanted to grow old here. There's a place where you got to make a moral stance. You got to say enough's enough. You do this over my dead body. Really, if you or somebody else and people in this trailer court can get there, you can have your voice. This proposal, because of staggering safety concerns, should be denied by the zoning hearing board. It's much better to have your voices heard than not heard at all, just to sit back and do nothing. So I do strongly believe that of the power of the individual, instead of just talking about it, never doing anything, you can do things.
We were looking to build a new home and saw an ad in the paper that talked about panoramic views and must see to appreciate. And it still is a panoramic, except for behind us. The first thing we knew was when the bulldozers showed up. We were told that they were going to drill anywhere from 1 to 12 wells across the street. The pad starts 35 or 40 feet from our property line. The well itself, I would estimate, is between 300 and 350 feet from our home.
The week that they started was the week before finals week. Craig was going to school, and I was teaching.
They set up lights across the street. The lights were shining right in our bedroom and living room windows.
We didn't get our rest. It was just a very stressful time for both of us.
They really don't seem to have any concern or courtesy for their neighbors. Would have close to $500,000 invested between the home, the lot, landscaping, and everything else. And it's gone at least $100,000 less. And we were told by an employee of one of the local banks that we would not be able to get a refinance through that bank because of being across the street from the gas well.
If we would want to sell our home, banks are hesitant to provide the financing for a buyer because they can't guarantee the water supply.
I asked them when is there going to be grass growing and deer playing and rabbits playing across the street from our house, and their response was, well, we really don't know. So it's going to look like this for the next 20, 30, 50 years, depending on how long the gas lasts.
The Upper Delaware Watershed has been named the #1 most endangered river in America. Why? Because of the threat from drilling and fracking.
When they're putting in these well pads, 5 to 7 acres in size, they're creating all kinds of disturbance, which has all kinds of consequences. The forest acts as a sponge and a filter. And so when you change forest to non-forest, to turn it into grassland, you change the runoff rates. You don't have the same kind of recharge. You change the filtration of pollutants. You change the sequestration of nutrients that get released to the stream. Anyone downstream is going to be fundamentally impacted by what happens in these headwater systems.
Being close to the river for the last 30 years has really brought to me an appreciation of what the river means and its watershed means. Every single person who drinks water is actually invested in protecting the river by caring about our own health. The Delaware River provides drinking water for over 15 million people, including New York City and Philadelphia.
The water here in the Northeast region falls into several major watersheds. One of them is the Delaware River Basin. The states that are effective have actually formed compacts so they can work together to protect their own water supplies. The Delaware River Basin Commission has regulatory power over the entire watershed. And when the fracking started happening in Pennsylvania, there were drillers who wanted to go into the Delaware River Basin.
I just want to acknowledge the Commission's receipt of a March 1st letter from the Riverkeeper Network, and the Commission has no further response on that item at this time.
I'm sorry, we're not going to allow you to do that to us again.
We will address the letter, we just simply can't do it today.
We need that letter addressed today because in 3 months when you hold your next commission hearing, with all due respect, it'll be way too late.
There was a groundswell of grassroots activity that organized people to go to the Delaware River Basin Commission and tell them that there should be no drilling in this area.
Whereas the conservation and utilization, development, management, and control of water and...
There's nothing else I do in my life except try to stop pollution to our watershed, except protect our future generations' water supply, then I've had a life well spent.
If there was ever going to be any drilling in that area, the Delaware River Basin Commission needed to do a very serious environmental study, and it needed to adopt very rigorous regulations. The Delaware River Basin Commission was persuaded by this activity to initiate some of these processes. The industry's decided that it's just not going to be profitable to hang around out here, and there are places it can go where it can develop with less resistance. So we have a win here in the Delaware River Basin, and we'll start seeing wins in other parts of the country as well.
Every single energy source has its pluses and minuses, from an environmental perspective, from an economic perspective, from an efficiency perspective, but Pennsylvania natural gas is our best economic opportunity we've had in decades.
The economic boom is pretty fraudulent for the most part. Very few folks make a whole bunch of money.
Everyone is telling us that we're all going to have jobs. The question is, if you lose your community, what have you gained?
We're now in the middle of Dimmick, where they have 150 wells in county, and it looks the same as it looked when I came here 22 years ago. No new improvements, no extra business, and this is Boomtown, USA, 5 years of drilling. My name is Vera Scroggins. Boy, it's noisy already, huh? I've been following this since 2008, since I heard about it. I've been documenting for 5 years. So I have over 400 videos on YouTube showing the invasion of the gas industry. Here's a site that they're getting ready to frack. It's a chief site. They're bringing in all the Halliburton equipment. 680 wells here in Susquehanna County, and the footprint is very extensive and pervasive, and it's filling our whole county with high-pressure pipelines, compressor stations every 2 to 4 miles of all varying sizes, emitting tons of toxic emissions and noise 24/7, and we're being exposed to all these risks. There's all the frack dust, silica dust clouds. I called in OSHA and let them know I've been seeing silica dust and videotaping it. This stuff is in clouds on sites. The workers are exposed, as well as the homeowners that live below the sites. Silica can be pretty fine, and it can can get into your lungs and cause inflammation, and that's what they call silicosis. Now, they're supposed to be using respirators, but even with the respirators, if you don't have it on all the time, or how much gets through or doesn't get through, you have to be careful. It's almost like asbestos. This is Montrose High School. We're here for the special Williams meeting.
I'm sorry, but no cameras are allowed.
Oh, really? This is a school. We're residents. We pay taxes here. We want to hear what you have to say about 3 compressor stations that are within 2 miles of a school. We have 26 compressor stations permitted so far. Several are being built within 2 square miles in the Dimmock-Springville area near Elk Lake schools. And now we're getting people finally starting, more of them, to protest and express their concerns about being exposed to tons of toxic emissions and constant noise 24/7. Sure, well, let us know. She doesn't know. She's just a security guard. We're on the road. We can do anything we want. Step back into the road then. Yeah, sure. You can step back also. Yeah. Go back to your shed over there. Go back to your shed. Do your work. We have to let the world know what you're doing. Whoa, compressor station's burning up. Look up there.
You can't come on this property.
I live here.
Right here.
Is it close? I fight for my own land, my own environment, my own health, and the health of everybody that I know. I live here.
A lot of times things are right underneath our feet, and all we need to do is change the way we're thinking about them. A couple decades ago, we didn't even realize just how much natural gas was trapped in rocks thousands of feet below us. Technologies made it possible to safely unlock this cleaner burning natural gas. These deposits can provide us with fuel for 100 years, providing energy security and economic growth all across this country. It just takes somebody having the idea, and that's where the discovery comes from.
Methane is released from start to finish with this industry. Drilling and completion of the wells themselves releases a great deal of gas. They are often venting it into the air, and we also know that the pipelines leak.
If society doesn't start controlling methane emissions now, immediately, we're likely to run into a irreversible runaway global warming phenomenon sometime in the time period of 15 to 35 years from now. 15 to 35 years. That's pretty soon.
If gas migrates outside the well, it's possible that on its way up, it comes in contact with an underground source of drinking water. In other words, methane contamination of somebody's private water well.
There has been no proven case of groundwater contamination as a result of hydraulic fracturing.
My name is Craig Stevens. I was raised by my father, a right-wing conservative.
This can't stand. We have to have law and order, or there is no law and order, right? That's it.
My family's been on this property for 180 years. I'm the 6th generation deeded owner, and I have 4 children who will be the 7th generation. 6 weeks after my father died, who would never sign a lease, Chesapeake signed my grandmother in the nursing home to a lease. They said they have the right to do whatever they wanted on my property without my permission. They own a percentage of the minerals that come up out of the ground. They own nothing on the surface. My creek was blown out 8 times. There was more mud from the floods that came down these roads than anybody's ever seen in their lifetimes here, because there are no trees to hold things up. There are now 10 well pads that are scheduled for Silver Lake Township. You'll hear the owners of the properties here say, "Get out of my business. This is my private property." How about the noise? How about the flaring? How about the release of fumes into the air? That is not private. That's not something you're doing on your own property where you don't need anybody else's input.
This issue is a civil rights issue. It's about being able to be safe at your own home, and your water to be clean, and your air to be clean.
You turn a flag upside down and point it backwards. In the military means you're in distress and you need help. So I'm asking all of our patriots, anywhere, to help us. This isn't about gas drilling or oil drilling or energy use. This is about the taking away our rights. Heard about the problem from Demick. I was told by everybody over here lying, the water's been bad over there, they've always been able to light their water on fire. I heard the spin here from the pro-drilling people that were happy with them here. I decided to go over and educate myself on the potential problems. In 2008, the drill rigs came in to Demick, and 3 of the vertical wells that were drilled caused contamination to 33 private water wells. The DEP actually found them guilty of contaminating multiple water wells.
That well right there has polluted half the ground around here.
This is what his water looks like. How do you like that? Would you drink that?
That's how it comes out of my well.
We've been living with a contaminated well for over 3 years now. It says in my lease that they have to restore my well to original condition. They have not done that, and it says that they have to do it immediately.
The industry will deny responsibility for any pollution at all, whether it's fracking wastewater or chemicals or methane. They claim that the methane gas that's getting into the drinking water of the people in Demick was naturally occurring, even though the state DEP made a determination that they caused the problem because of poor well casing.
Once the state determined that Cabot was responsible, they made them provide water to the families because their contract said that they had to provide the water. Water was being delivered to the homes. They had water buffaloes, that's what they live on. This continued until November 30th of 2011, when Cabot was given the order by DEP that they could cease water deliveries.
Where's the accountability when things go wrong? That's the problem.
I picked a side right then and there. I chose to stand for the people who were the underdog, the people that were victims.
We will not have any water in the house unless I hook up my contaminated well back again. I am not going to do that.
So how long have you been without drinkable water?
2.5 years. Here's what they do. They ruin your water, you call them, they say, just sign this document and we'll have you all hooked up. We're not admitting responsibility, but we're going to help you out.
So this is what the gas company put in?
Yes.
And they never hooked it up?
Your attorney says, do not sign that. That is a non-disclosure gag order. You can't sue them. And they say, when you want the water turned on, you call me up and you'll sign this document. That's not how I was raised to run things. That's not how you do it. That's not a company coming in to help.
Basically, something is extremely wrong with the water quality. When you consider that the hundreds of different chemicals that are put into fracking fluids, many of which are toxins or carcinogens, are not tested for, then who knows what's in this water?
DEP is saying that there's nothing wrong with the water in Demick. I want them to show some responsibility here. They come to Demick, drink it, take it home with you, give it to your kids to bathe in for a whole month and see how you like it. My daughter says it the best. She says, Mom, I don't want to go on that water, that contaminated well again. I don't want to get sick again. I don't want to get the rashes, the hives. And besides that, I want to have babies someday. Thank you.
I signed the lease. I knew what the consequences may or may not be. If my water went bad, I gotta pay the $15,000 to dig a new well.
There is no middle of the road on this issue. My side is safety. They have not proven to me that they can do this safely, and they've turned the neighbors against the neighbors.
Now, violations are there, hundreds of them, torn liners, pollution discharged to the waters of the Commonwealth.
We've always had a wonderful township here. Now the whole state, the whole country thinks that our township is nothing but a dump. And that's wrong. When a few people can ruin it for the rest.
I'm not here against you folks at all. Now everybody can say, well, you can clean your water, filter your water, put the separators on it. There's more than just methane in the water. We've had many scientists at my residence, and they're really baffled on the water. I have 3 little children in my house. We're just looking for water.
We are in this together. Whether you're making money on hydrofracking or not, it's still our water, and it's not right. And that's what we have to remember. We're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're not independents, we're not anti-fracking, we're not pro-fracking, we're Americans. And our water is the most precious, essential thing to all of our lives. And we have to protect it, and we have to be generous with the people who've lost this very, very basic privilege. I'm reaching out to the people in New York who this could easily be, and to remind you that we are all bound to each other by water. It doesn't hold to boundaries. It moves simply and freely, and it has to be respected, and that's why we're here today, delivering water to Timmy.
I started Water for Demic with the help of Water Defense, Mark Ruffalo, the actor, Josh Fox. They came in to help. Hello. We'll have one station there for you to go. That's enough. We made sure that those water buffaloes would stay full.
Here it comes.
When you guys get low, let us know, but we're gonna start a daily thing where people can come and get topped off. I bought a truck, we insured it, we got a water spout set up. We will provide them the water because that's what good neighbors do for people.
Thank you, guys.
No problem. I'm gonna defer to my children. I'm gonna pass them my ancestral property. They're horrified and they've asked me to stop it, and I will.
Keep me safe, lie with me, stay beside me, don't go. Don't go.
I didn't know how bad it was. I really didn't know how bad it was. I mean, when we heard about this whole notion of hydraulic fracturing, it just sounded so ludicrous and insane. 10 years ago, I couldn't believe anyone could possibly consider doing it. But here we are. Seems like the devil's got a master plan for Central New York. This song's called Texas. And it's about unbridled pursuit of profit.
Gonna get what's mine, and wild horses couldn't take it from me. Papa says that I'm a golden child, and the whole world's gonna light my feet. It's all coming to me. Going down picking when it's harvest time. Gonna get my share, gonna get what's mine for me. Sun is a-blazing down, but I don't mind. I'm picking, I'm digging, it's harvest time for me. When I get my little lie on it, when I get my little mind on it, you best believe it's all coming to me. Papa built a fire and it burned for me.
Thank you. There was once a beautiful forest that was home to many animals. One day, a fire started and the wind quickly whipped it into a terrible conflagration that threatened to char the entire forest. The animals ran to the riverbank while they huddled in misery and fear. Then one little brave parrot began scooping river water into its beak and flying into the flames, back and forth,
in an attempt to extinguish the fire. The other animals said, "What are you doing? It's too late. Our home is going to be destroyed, and there is nothing we can do about it. It's inevitable." And the brave parrot said, "I am doing what I can." So it continued flying back and forth with beaks full of water, while flames crowned in the treetops. And then the gods looked down from the sky and said, "Parrot, what are you doing? You're going to burn up and die, and the forest will be destroyed anyway." And the parrot said, "I don't need your advice. I need your help." And the gods were so moved and inspired by the determined actions of the parrot and so ashamed of their own passivity and defeatism that they began to cry, and their tears extinguished the fire. The end. So, if there are any potential brave little parrots out there, this is your moment. All together, we might just change the course of Providence itself. Thank you.
We are called to care for this planet and to stop fracking. We are called to care for this planet and care for the poor. We are called to be the leaders who seek peace and justice. I met Dr. Martin Luther King just 5 weeks before he was assassinated. Dr. King said, "You and I will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the hateful words and actions of bad people, but for the appalling silence of good people." Let's walk in Dr. King's shoes.
Several years ago, I was General Secretary of the National Council of Churches. Unfortunately, I think the faith community has been absent in the conversation, environmental conversations, the peace and justice conversations. What I would say to religious leaders is stand up and speak out.
If we're looking to Congress to lead the way, it's probably not going to happen. Why they do not see within their hearts the moral issue of this and respond to that above even their reelection, above all the moneyed interests, is beyond me.
We need to get engaged politically. We need to stop the influence of money in politics.
The industry got this far by telling a story in Washington about how somehow fracking was going to give us cheap oil and jobs and solve all these other problems. And what a lot of people don't know is that story was backed up with millions in campaign contributions and more than $1 billion spent on lobbying across the country.
Common Cause filed a report about deep pockets and the drilling issue around fracking. It pointed out that large corporations are willing to do almost anything to buy politicians, to put money into campaigns. That money has influenced the outcome of decisions.
If we don't fix some of these core issues now around money and politics, the debate will be won by the industry before it's even started.
We have the three rivers here, the Allegheny, the Monongahela, and Ohio. These rivers were contaminated with trihalomethanes as a result of dumping bromides, a byproduct of the drilling, in our rivers. We did our due diligence. We enacted the first ban ever of shale gas extraction by means of hydraulic fracturing.
It's hugely important that people get involved on the local level. If people really come together and educate themselves and organize, they can have a huge impact on their own lives, the character of their communities, and really fight back successfully against this industry.
We had no idea when we signed leases that our wells might be polluted. We had no idea when we signed leases that our air would be contaminated.
Good morning, kids. I've been in this place, on this farm, since 1985. I know you're hungry. Good. It's really, really important to me to treat the earth kindly. Too many black flies, huh? Yeah, too many black flies.
My background is in geology, and I worked for many years in the area of groundwater pollution, actually. When When the landman came to our door, it was represented to us as basically good old-fashioned conventional well drilling.
He said, we're going to drill a well in the ground, and then we're going to clean up the area, we're going to go away, and we'll leave you with a small tank and a pipe coming up out of the ground. You'll just never know we were here.
There was no mention of hydrofracking, no mention of a huge amount of water being used, no mention of chemicals being introduced.
It hasn't happened in New York yet. We still are under a de facto moratorium. The money had no interest for me whatsoever. I said, I'm just not interested, go away.
I'm an environmental scientist. I should have been more knowledgeable, but I wasn't. My husband and I signed a gas lease. Half a year later, I became aware of what fracking was all about, and I was completely horrified.
The landman was persistent. He would call on the phone repeatedly, letters in the mail for about 7 or 8 months. I didn't feel coerced until that last time when he knocked on the door and he said, okay, this is it. This is your last opportunity. Everybody else has signed. You want to say on what happens on your land, you signed this lease. So I signed it.
The law in New York allows compulsory integration. They have to have gas lease on 60% of 600 or so acres, and the other 40% would be subject to forced pooling. Basically what that's doing is it's giving the right of eminent domain to the gas companies. That seems so wrong.
After I signed the lease, the landman disappeared. He got what he wanted, and I couldn't believe that I had allowed myself to be in a position of raping my land. I was part of that. Horrible.
I formed this organization called Fleeced, for those of us who basically got taken by the gas companies.
We had no idea that we would no longer be able to get mortgages on our property. We had no idea when we signed leases that we could no longer get homeowners insurance.
What we've been doing is really trying to educate our members, educate ourselves on the kinds of impacts we're worried about.
We are sorry we signed, and we are angry.
After I signed my lease,
I wanted to talk about the gas conversion.
There were other people who were concerned about the possibilities of drilling coming into this area. We talked about what do? How can we help ourselves? That was the start of the Dryden Resource Awareness Coalition.
Hi, how are you?
We decided that we could do a petition to ban this heavy industry from Dryden.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great day.
They went to thousands of doors to see what people were thinking about drilling. And they got thousands of signatures asking the town board to protect them.
A majority of people said, this is great, let me sign it right away. A few people said, I just don't have enough information. A smaller number of people said, no, I don't want to sign that. I think we should have the drillers come in. We collected our signatures and we presented them to the town board. What passed, this is not allowed by our zoning.
The importance of towns like Dryden is that people can actually take on the big industry and win.
When the industry says that there's no harm done, actually it's not a true statement. Physicians who've seen patients from these fracking areas have reported skin rashes, have reported nausea, vomiting.
What we see is a pattern emerging of 3 different organ systems being most commonly represented, mainly respiratory symptoms, so shortness of breath, gastrointestinal symptoms, abdominal pain, cramping, nausea, vomiting, and then what we would call dermatological, some skin symptoms.
My name's Joseph Giovannini. I have lived in this spot for 30 years. I'm a third-generation stonemason by trade. My father and I built this house. It took us 3 years to get it roughed in and another year to finish it. There's a lot of stonework here, and that's what him and I loved. The well site went in 6 years ago, and at that point in time, my water became contaminated. They changed the landscape so all the runoff from the well site itself goes directly into my basement. The well site is 391 feet directly behind my house. After about 2 years, they built a refinery on this side of me at a short distance. I started getting cold, numb, sinus problems, metal taste in the mouth, dizziness once in a while. In order to keep all the toxins out of my house, I had to completely seal the windows. About 1 year after the plant got operational, I had a knockdown seizure. They told me that I have two masses, small masses, on this side of my head. One is in towards the front, one is back here, and that I had two small masses in this lung. My home was appraised at $230,000, and I'm about to walk away with nothing. I plan to live to be 80 and die here.
These are not transient people. These are people who lived on this land for generations, and they had every intention to live on this land for generations to come.
My name is Rayna Ripple. I am the director of the Southwest Pennsylvania Environmental Health Project. Our primary objective is to treat people and assist people who feel their health has been or could be impacted by natural gas drilling activities.
This is not just about research. This is not just about some idea out there of energy and jobs and all these fantastic things, but these people are suffering right now from serious quality of life issues. If nothing else, serious quality of life issues.
If I, as a mom, am lying awake at night worrying about my child every night, I'm not in the best shape. If I'm kept awake 24/7 by noise and light pollution, and I'm worrying about my child, and my child is sick, I'm not in good health.
Back in 2005, we started looking at this farm, and we thought it was a really nice place to raise our kids. We did have a deed search, and it came up there was no lease on it. We bought the place, and in comes the bulldozers. They said, well, we own the gas. You can't stop us. Pretty much sit back and enjoy the ride.
Went from 1 well to 2 wells to 3 wells, and now to 5 wells. I noticed there were several leaks. The material that comes out of the well is so corrosive. The one well has leaked ever since they put it in. The casing's been leaking. It got to be so bad on the pad that well's on, you couldn't stand to breathe in it. You were going to work for 15 minutes around the equipment down there, and you had to come back to the house. You'd be deathly sick. We had our water tested. It had strontium and barium and manganese and a list of chemicals that I can't pronounce for you. The DEP said it could still be drinkable, but they had to be filtered, but I wasn't letting my kids drink that stuff.
My 4-year-old gets the rashes, and he gets crippling stomach pains. And the hardest thing is they don't know what it is. They test him for leukemia, and that come back negative. And all you can do is hold him till he stops screaming.
What you see happening to people whose kids are impacted, they don't know what's going on. They do not know what's going on. A lot of times they feel like they're not believed. And my message for you is believe it. Believe it.
The jobs that are being produced in the gas drilling industry are very dangerous jobs. The workers themselves are going to be exposed to a whole variety of different chemicals and air pollutions.
Cutting off the circulation to you.
Yeah.
Black or blue down in there. Same thing with the fingers. Extremely painful.
One of your jobs was to actually go into the tanks and clean them?
Yeah. They hook a rope to you on a harness. They give you a pressure hose, and you start washing the walls down. Don't tell you what's in there, don't just go clean out the tank. Since I got exposed, I had real bad migraines, stomach pains, shortness of breath. Seen numerous doctors. I think there's about 42 in all. Nobody seems to know what it is. Nobody could tell you what it is. All you do now is sit around and wonder how long you got to live with this crap. Your home's nothing, your food's nothing, your water's nothing. You're expendable. As you can see, all I'm doing is waiting to die, I guess.
I'm Mark Jacobson. I'm a professor of civil and environmental engineering at Stanford University. Natural gas is claimed to be a bridge fuel between current fossil fuels and clean renewable energies. However, this is not the case. It actually warms the planet, causes more global warming per unit energy generated than coal. So natural gas is not a bridge fuel. It's really a fuel that just perpetuates the fossil fuel cycle that we're in. And there's no need for it because we have plenty of wind and water and sunlight to power the entire world for all purposes many times over right now, today. We found that it was technically feasible to repower the entire world for all purposes with wind, water, and sunlight. There's no technical barrier and not even an economic barrier to doing it. The only barriers at this point are social and political barriers.
Governor, is fracking safe? Is fracking safe, Governor?
I represent concerned health professionals in New York to bring a message to the governor to say that an industry that has no boundaries, who wants to use our land as its factory floor, an industry that will turn the earth inside out. We're here to say that is our home. That's our air and our water and our food. And we will defend this land. This movement of ours. This is our Greensboro lunch counter, the Marcellus Shale. This is our Stonewall riot. This is our Seneca Falls Convention. This is our human rights movement. And we will not be silent and we will not sit down. Stand fracking down! Stand fracking down! Stand fracking down!
This is a human experiment that I don't think we should run.
On March 18th, 2013, I and the others with whom I linked arms temporarily blocked a truck carrying a drill head from going where it wanted to go.
If you could just allow the truck out, it would be appreciated.
You broke the law. You knew you were breaking the law. What did you hope would happen?
The 12 of us blocked a driveway that a company is using to prepare abandoned salt caverns that are underneath the west bank of Seneca Lake for the storage of compressed hydrocarbon gases that are the byproducts of fracking for natural gas. I believe, as do many of my colleagues in the sciences, that it's not safe to compress explosive gases and store them underneath and beside a lake that serves as the drinking water for 100,000 people.
Oh, well.
This is in violation of what I consider is the sacred compact that I have with my children, which is to insert myself between the body of my child and the danger to protect them from harm.
So you make a win. You're welcome. Can't, sorry.
Taking on the oil and gas industry requires a lot of sacrifices. I grew up being told if there are signs of atrocity, you identify them and you take action. You don't pretend that nothing's going on. You don't sit back and wonder, can you win this or not? You simply do the right thing.
The exemptions from all the major federal environmental regulations were put in place in Washington. We are the people that elect those representatives that allow them to pollute with abandon. We have to speak to those officials and say, stop this attack on America.
Calling for a national moratorium on fracking. Unless they can figure out a way to do this safely, it needs to stop.
There is about 75% less ice in the Arctic than there was 40 years ago. You want to know how the fossil fuel industry responds to a planetary emergency like that? Their idea is, let's go up to the Arctic and drill for some more oil.
We have no time to wait. We need to change the energy infrastructure now.
Our country is at a crossroads. The choices we make with respect to natural gas will set the course of energy development and environmental policies for the first half of the 21st century, and hopefully longer. Do we repeat the mistakes of the past, or do we learn from them?
New Yorkers, be very, very strong in your resistance to this awful fracking industry. He who does not hope to win has already lost.
If we can shift investments into renewable sources, we are going to be far more likely to move in the direction that we want to go.
This is America, right? We are patriots. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and those words mean something.
If Gandhi could challenge the British Empire for salt, we are going to challenge these corporations to protect our water. Stop the frack attack!
We can move forward with a very toxic form of fossil fuel extraction, or we can blaze a trail to a different kind of future.
We as a nation have done this. We have fought for civil rights. We have fought for women's rights. We have fought against incalculable odds. We're up against the largest international corporations, so we can't underestimate what we have to do. But the fact is, we've done it in the past. We can do it now. We must do it.